Hey everybody, it's Dr. Kelly with your next Learn It moment. Let me ask you the question. Have you ever learned to ride a bicycle just by reading about it? Hey everybody, it's Dr. Kelly. I used to be a teacher in the toughest classrooms in the worst neighborhoods with the most difficult students. And what I learned there changed everything I thought I knew about content creation and delivery. Over the past 25 years, I've taught thousands of students, both in person and online. And what I can tell you is that effective online engagement is the hardest thing you'll ever do without guidance. So I've dedicated this channel to showing people exactly how to capture attention, hold engagement, and create transformation. Every single part of it. I love learning, I love teaching and making an impact, and that's all you're gonna find right here. Well, I feel like there's a lot of presuppositions in education that don't facilitate actual, what I call informational utility within the education system. And let me tell you why this is of massive value to you, because once you start to analyze the quality of the information that you're creating and the intended outcome for the user or the consumer of that information, you're going to analyze it very, very differently. And that's what I want for you. I want you to look at content creation in terms of where are we actually going with this? What's the desired outcome for the consumer of that education? And when you look through it with that filter, it's going to look very, very differently. And so some of the words that I use, I need to define because they're not normal words. In fact, I make some of this shit up. Take, for example, I don't like the word education. I don't find that it instills excitement in people. It is very the opposite of what I'm about, which is engaging people to lean forward into the conversation, hopefully trying to get more of what you and I am delivering. And in order to do that, you can't use words that have really negative connotations already attached to them. And education is one of those words because we've been educated in a formal setting that traditionally is not overly engaging and is not what we call innovative or causes people to have innovative or creative thought, and then creates what I call informational utility, which is when we take information and we take A information and B information, we combine those, and all of a sudden now we have Z information, a whole new thought pattern that is developed. That, in my world, is what it's creating new thought, better thought, new thought patterns. We don't need necessarily as a society to learn how to do long division, for example. Because of the fact that technology is doing things, what we need to be able to create and solve bigger problems. The only way we're going to do that is to understand basics, apply basics to new and creative thought patterns, and hence the word education. So education is engagement learning, engagement education. And it looks at the learner, the user, the consumer of that information very, very differently. And that's where we start kind of, let's use a baseline to say, hey, how do we get there? How do we get to a place where we have what we call engaged learning? And we do that, I believe, first by breaking apart the old stuff and looking at the 30,000 foot view. Where are we going? What do we want our consumer of information to get out of this? Like, wow, when you look at that one question alone over your content and you start to analyze your content and you say, hey, this is where we want to go. Will this page of content, will it actually get us there? Or is it just old antiquated stuff that, Abraham Lincoln threw in and we're still using it today? Because you're going to find when you start shifting your lens during content creation and content regurgitation, you're going to find some of your stuff is like, no, dude, we don't need this. This doesn't help us. It doesn't vault our consumers of information forward. In fact, It might just be a road barrier. It might be the way that it's always been done. And boy, if anything I can get through to you today, it's the way that things have always been done is no more. We are breaking the molds with regards to the way things have always been done. So first we're going to do is we're going to look at that 30,000 foot view and say, where do we want to go? The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make corrections along the way, right? This education has to be flexible. It's going to morph and change all the time. We have now the ability to get feedback so much quicker than we've ever had it before. What does that do? Well, it does amazing things if we utilize the feedback. If we start to utilize the incoming messaging that we're getting from our consumers, we can actually make adjustments to the content creation system. We can pull out old content and put in new content at record speed. We don't have to send an entire book to the publishing company anymore and say, oh, you know what? Chapter 2, no, that's wrong. We found new science that said that we shouldn't have said that, because that's how it's been in the past, right? That's why we need chapter, the 11th edition of the same textbook, because, oh, you know what? We added a new paragraph to it, plus we're going to increase the cost of the textbook now, so it's $180 for a student to can buy a single freaking textbook. Come on, guys, that's gone. That's ridiculous. That's history. Let's all get on the same page and say, with education, man, it needs to be flexible. It needs to be mobile. We need to be able to institute changes quickly. And this is where, I really want people to figure out, how they can make these changes in their own content. It's how can we actually create a system for these consumers of our content by able to think less but do more. Now, this is crucial because traditionally we've spent a great deal of time sitting, thinking, stewing, intellectualizing, but very little in the doing. And in the doing is when mastery happens. We need to do earlier. That's one of the reasons each of these content sections that we create are so short, because if you actually take the action items, man, in this little 6-7 minute video that I just created, I've given you 60 minutes of homework to go do. Well, now that is how we start to create mastery, because you're going to take this little tidbit and now look at your content, pull one course out, anything that you've got, and say, I'm going to go through this thing piece by piece, see if it's engaging, see if it's actually pulling learners forward, see if the stuff that in here is drivable, useful, will direct users, consumers to where we want them to go, and I'm going to get rid of all the stuff that isn't helpful. You start doing that, and you're going to see massive changes in your content creation and in your education. So guys, go out there. That homework system is going to be awesome for you, because you're going to be able to cut out so much garbage out of your course that you're planning, out of your new onboarding procedures, whatever it is you're training for. Start cutting things out, because in this situation, less is more. Have a great one, guys. We'll see you in the next one.